the bar is a little bit higher with quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Bar is a little bit higher with quarterbacks. He was the face of a franchise that, other than a 2005 trip to the Super Bowl, was pretty much irrelevant before he got there. It's pretty much irrelevant. Other than
the Beastquake, Justin.
Beastquake was awesome.
Matt Hasselbeck was a quarterback.
Beastquake was awesome.
I mean, there is that.
But
what up, Sean Payton?
But here's what I know about the Beastquake. Right? You know what the Seahawks record was?
Yes, they were 8-8, right?
They were 7-9.
Oh, okay, my bad. I remember they made
7-9.
They won that terrible division that year.
Terrible division and got a home game, and somehow, some way, found a way to beat the Saints,
the Super Bowl defending champs.
They were 7-9. The Seahawks made a great Super Bowl run with Sean Alexander. Other than that, other than a few here and there, the Seahawks as a franchise nationally irrelevant. It's an irrelevant franchise. By the way, Carolina Panthers made a Super Bowl as well. Remember Jake Delhomme? Carolina Panthers made a Super Bowl as well.
Dude, he gave Tom Brady everything he could. That's one of the closest Patriots. Mm-hmm. Like, you go back and look, that was a great game, man.
It was a great game. Nobody remembers it. You want to know why?
Because Jake Delhomme didn't win.
Nope.
But put some respect. Like,
no.
Carolina team was solid.
Brendan, you know why nobody remembers that game?
Because Jake Delhomme didn't win. Right?
No. It's because Janet Jackson's boob came out at halftime. And that's all,
I didn't even connect those dots.
And that's all anybody talked about for 2 weeks.
I didn't connect those dots. See, your boy was too little to remember like what that was. Like, just Brady versus Delhomme, man.
What's going on there, Mom? We're not rewinding it.
I think it was like the ripe age of 7 or 8, so it makes sense, right? Oh, classic.
But that was one of those games where
that makes
sense. Because usually Super Bowl happens, you talk about said Super Bowl for a good week. Nobody's talking about the football. Anyways.
That's funny. That's really funny.
So it's getting interesting in Pittsburgh with regards to the situation of Russell Wilson. And I was adamant weeks ago that he's going to be the starter. They would not bring him in without an understanding, and he would not have signed with them without an understanding. Now, again, the timing's weird because Justin Fields was not available when they first signed him. And then Pittsburgh was like, well, let's make him compete and let's see what happens. Doesn't sound like it's going all that well. More on Russell Wilson and quarterbacks in general coming up in a bit because we talked about Tua Tagovailoa yesterday and his, let's say, pointed words. I don't want to say harsh words. If it was his truth, I don't know if they were all that harsh. But talking about Brian Flores and his time in Miami, Brian Flores has answered back. But it got me thinking about how unusual and just how rare it is for coaches and quarterbacks and stars to align to create magic. And how to have a quarterback and to have a coach and to have an understanding, just how rare that is. So we'll talk about Brian Flores and Tua Tagovailoa and go back and take a look at some of the other quarterback coach combos, wondering would one work without the other. We continue our countdown to college football. I believe we are down to 10 days now before Oregon and Oregon State kicks. So we talked a lot about Mike Gundy yesterday, which I found very funny that Mike Gundy came out yesterday or 2 days ago and was like, tell your agent to quit calling. There's no more money. Did you see the news about Oklahoma State yesterday? On the back of Oklahoma State's helmets, it was announced this year, they are going to have a QR code. That QR code on the back of their helmet that you could pause your TV and blink and hit the QR code like you do in life. Like we all learned how to use them in COVID. That QR code is going to be linked directly to the NIL collective pool. And you could watch games on your TV and donate to your Cowboys with the click of a button.
See, wouldn't that be, can you do it both ways? Like if they fumble the ball, I can take money away from them. And if they score, I can give it to them.
Now that's something.
Yeah, like you fumble the ball, I'm taking your money away, dude. You blew it for my team. I'm a super booster. Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be? It would be hilarious. It would be very bad, and it would lead to very, very bad things. But
Tell me that wouldn't be entertaining.
Just Venmo, and like all of a sudden you Venmo like a player like $500, and then all of a sudden he fumbles. You're like, Venmo request.
Who would get it worse than kickers?
I put in a Venmo request now. I need at least 300 of that back. Sorry, son.
How much would you Venmo a kicker for a game-winning field goal?
Dude, at the end of the game, guys get back into their locker room, grab their phone, and they got like 47 Venmo transactions. Like, are you net positive right now?
I know, right? Be perfect.
But yeah, no, QR code directly
That's
into
awesome, kind of.
Oklahoma State Fund, so we'll talk about that. Got some more NFL news and notes. I've got a bit of personal information. Nothing serious, but a bit of personal information we're going to talk about in about an hour from now. But the relationships between quarterbacks and coaches, does it work with everybody? And why it is so hard to get right. And when you do get it right, boy, you best not mess with it. We talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, so yesterday we saw a video clip that went around the internet a bunch of Tua Tagovailoa, and it brought up an interesting discussion on coaching styles, different generations, mental health, anything and everything. Piled into about a minute and a half clip. We played it yesterday, but Tua Tagovailoa, who is now obviously the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins, has been thriving under Coach Mike McDaniel. And obviously, it was the worst kept secret in the NFL that when Brian Flores, the previous coach of the Miami Dolphins, was there, did not want to draft Tua, wanted to draft Justin Herbert. And then when Tua got there, was openly talking about how he wanted to go get Deshaun Watson and seemingly any quarterback under the sun that was not named Tua Tagovailoa. And there was a disconnect there. It just wasn't working. And Tua Tagovailoa said, yeah, imagine waking up every day being told you suck. You are terrible. Imagine just each and every day, that's what it was like with Brian Flores. And then he juxtaposed that. And I don't know if it was a complete out of left field blindside cheap shot at Brian Flores. I think what he was trying to say is that now I've got this head coach who tells me I am good, who shows me how successful I can be, and that's the way I am thriving. I think there was a little benefit of a little left-handed jab, but I don't think Tua came out and said what he said about Brian Flores to try to knock him down a peg or for revenge. I think it was almost going like, one guy told me I sucked. This guy told me, no, you're good. And look, now I'm thriving under this guy. How would you think? Yes, Brenden.
I mean, how important just is that, Justin, not only in football, but it's obviously football, you have your talent, but like, you yourself and, on this show, like we talk about, positive energy.
Always.
And it's usually pretty cliche. Like you tell someone who's having a bad day, like, hey, stay positive. And they're probably going to tell you something that you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
But in general, Justin, how much across life does
everything's going to work out for the best. Yeah, that's really terrible to tell somebody who's having a terrible day.
But just like how in general, like just approaching life, would it be, like you said, we threw the reference out about bosses. We've all had good bosses and bad bosses. Mm-hmm. If you haven't had a bad boss, keep working jobs, you'll get one. But like, yeah, I think that's just going back to the basics of like human biology. It's like, if you tell someone they're bad at something, eventually it's going to overlap into whatever they do. Football, life, work, relationships, everything.
Well, I think it depends on the person. Again, and we're going to get back to this when it comes to sports. I would say, yeah, in a job situation, you want most of your people, your employees, to show up and want to be there and not be miserable. But we've talked about this multiple times. Football's not a real job. It's not. Football is it's a bizarro world where guys can swing helmets at one another and not get fired.
Ain't that the truth?
You know what I mean? So it's not a normal job. I shouldn't say it's not a real job. It's a very real job. It's not a normal job. Well, Brian Flores answered, and it's a 5-minute long answer. I think he was trying to talk about it as much as possible to get it past him because I don't think he wants to talk about football from 2 years ago. He's a defensive coordinator of the Vikings now. But here's just a snippet of what Brian Flores had to say in response to Tua Tagovailoa saying, he told me I sucked every day 2 years ago.
So, that hit me in a way that, I wouldn't say it was, positive for me. But at the same time, I've got to use that and say, hey, how can I grow from that? How can I be better? And that's really where I'm at from that standpoint. Do I feel like that's me? No. But how can I grow from that situation and create a world where that's not the case that anyone says that about Brian Flores?
So that's Brian Flores. He wants to evolve. He wants to grow from it. If you look at his body language, I think deep down inside, and again, I don't want to speak for him, but I'm going to. I think he was like, I'm a football coach. What do you want me to do? Which this is where I started thinking about this. Clearly, the best quarterback-coach combo of all time is Belichick and Brady. 6 Super Bowls. Couple of MVPs. Greatest NFL dynasty of all time. It's not even really debatable. Not only in their 6 Super Bowls, but the fact that it spanned the better part of 2 decades. It's the best. I wasn't really happy when it was going on. I was not a Patriots fan, but you cannot deny Belichick and Brady together created some magic. Now, the argument has always been, who benefited more? Was it more Belichick? Because he had the guts, and he had the guts to say, hey, Drew Bledsoe and your $100 million, sorry, you're going to Buffalo. We're going with Tom Brady.
And that did take guts.
That took some.
I mean, I
guts.
wasn't even around, and
it's insane to think about. Would that have happened if social media was around?
No, you imagine.
Could Bill Belichick have gotten away with that? Probably would have, because Belichick, we're on to Cincinnati.
So
but imagine if that happened. You take a $100 million quarterback that just signed, I think at that time was the biggest extension in New England Patriots history, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're right.
And bench him?
So is it like...
And ultimately send him off to Buffalo?
I would try to say it's like Daniel Jones, but that's not fair to Drew Bledsoe,
not even close.
Who was actually a good quarterback.
Quarterback in the Super Bowl.
You asked Drew, you want to know how Drew Bledsoe feels? Go back and watch the Tom Brady roast. He summed that up. He's like, Tom,
I think the closest thing maybe is the Rams getting rid of Jared Goff. But now imagine instead of getting Matt Stafford,
they got Brock Purdy.
Well, some backup you never heard of. Or maybe you kind of heard of him because it was that kid from Michigan. Anyways, we don't need to redo that. But that took guts. And then you found out, well, Tom Brady is the most insane competitor of anybody, seemingly, who's ever played football. And it works because Belichick kind of told Tom Brady for the better part of 15 years, you're not good enough. He's winning Super Bowls. He won 6, played in 9. Or excuse me, Tom Brady won 7. Didn't he play in 10? Yeah.
Because he lost to Nick Foles and Eli twice.
He played in 10 Super Bowls. And still at the end, Belichick was like, Brady, what are you doing here? But you know what? It worked. It worked because Tom Brady doesn't have the same mental makeup as Tua Tagovailoa. Not saying it's better, not saying it's worse, saying it's different. And that Belichick, I believe, as a head coach, only works if you've got Tom Brady. Evidence, he was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. They weren't very good. Belichick only works as a head coach if he has got Tom Brady as a quarterback. Now, what would Tom Brady's career have been like if he didn't have Belichick? He probably has a couple Super Bowls somewhere. Clearly has one with the Buccaneers, but Brady doesn't work if he doesn't have Belichick. See, part of it is easy to say, well, see, you idiot, Brian Flores, if you had just been nice to Tua, you would have maybe been in the playoffs. You probably would still have a head coaching job. Yeah, but some quarterbacks are wired to a way that you have to push them. Some quarterbacks are wired to a way where you have to constantly challenge them. That's Tom Brady. Tua's not that way. Tua's the way where you have to, and it seems as though Mike McDaniel has figured out, like, dude, you're good. Like, build up the confidence. Which is why coaching and quarterbacking and the mesh between the two is so insanely difficult to find. Careers have been lost. Coaches have been fired because they just can't figure out a way to mesh with the quarterback. Case in point, we just talked about him last segment. Does Russell Wilson work without Pete Carroll? I don't think he does. I have never seen a coach manage personalities better than Pete Carroll. He's the best. It's like, you can talk about what did Belichick do that was the best. I would say probably personnel moves, right? Belichick was always one step ahead. Never kept a guy too long. Pete Carroll, what did he do best? He managed personalities.
Who else could have found Julian Edelman, a quarterback from Kent State?
That's true. But also for Pete Carroll. Who else could have managed Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Marshawn Lynch, and then nerdy quarterback Russell Wilson and kept enough harmony to go to 2 Super Bowls? Now, it ultimately fractured.
Probably Mike Tomlin.
No, I disagree. Mike Tomlin took one sniff of Le'Veon Bell and went, get out.
That's
Mike
a good
Tomlin
point.
took one look at
That's a great
Antonio
point.
Brown post when Vontaze Burfict ruined his career with that shot to the head and said, AB, out. Pete Carroll was like,
Could Kyle Shanahan?
I don't know.
It's a short list of guys that.
But to me, that's where Pete Carroll shined. Is he was able to protect Russ because you had to protect Russ while still allowing Marshawn Lynch to be beast mode and to realize, like, all right, I need both of these guys to win. They hate each other, but I can. And he was the best at juggling. Russell Wilson doesn't work with any other coach because any other coach would go probably one of 2 ways. They would either go one way, which would be, all right, Russ is a franchise quarterback. He doesn't like Sherm, and he doesn't like Marshawn, by the way. It's what was going on back then. Sorry, Sherm and Marshawn, you guys are gone. He's a quarterback. By the way, I've seen it more often than not. Certain players, it's not like there is a disconnect with the quarterback. Guess what? Pack your bags. You're out. Or a coach would have went the other way and would have went, sorry, Russ, we need these guys to win. Suck it up. And it wouldn't have worked. But Pete Carroll managed to keep Russell Wilson and all of his quirks and the massive personalities on those Seahawk teams 10 years ago, as crazy as it sounds, but it was 10 years ago. It only works with Pete Carroll. Right now, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback in the league. Does Patrick Mahomes work with any other coach other than Andy Reid? I don't think he does. Here's my point. Most coaches, in the league, are all just a little bit afraid of getting fired. Heck, Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick, 2 of the best. They got fired last year. Mike Tomlin seemingly has a lifetime contract. There's already people saying, like, is this a make or break year for Mike Tomlin? Any coach at any time in the NFL, which stands for not for long, is out and can get fired. That is why most coaches are pretty buttoned up. Most coaches don't do weird, out of the box, hey, let's try that. Why? Because you try something, it doesn't work, you fall flat on your face, you get fired. Andy Reid went into Kansas City, I believe, playing with house money. He went into Kansas City playing with house money. He's like, okay, I get fired. I've been fired before. I've made all my money.
How does Philly feel about that now? Like letting him go, but you got a Super Bowl. But
it
now,
worked. It's because unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it's just life. Breakups need to happen sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
Relationships run their course. Breakups need to happen. And it was better for Andy Reid, and it was better for Philadelphia. And Andy Reid was able to essentially go to Kansas City, and I know he doesn't have long hair, but let his hair down a little bit. Because he doesn't have the crazy Philadelphia media on him. He doesn't have the crazy Philly fans who threw snowballs at Santa Claus going like, if you don't win a Super Bowl, even though you went to 4 straight NFC championship games, and that wasn't good enough for us. He went to Kansas City and was like, guys, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, oh well, I've had my career. And so there was that mixed with a quarterback in Patrick Mahomes that, let's be honest, has such a unique skill set. If you took Patrick Mahomes and you buttoned him up into a conventional Mike Vrabel at Tennessee type offense, which is ironically what Pittsburgh is running right now with Arthur Smith, but you know what I mean? If you took
Vrabel.
If you took Patrick Mahomes and you put him in a buttoned up offense, is he still the Patrick Mahomes that we see today? No. Patrick Mahomes, greatest quarterback of his generation, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, as we are watching it right now, only works with Andy Reid as a head coach. Russell Wilson's prime, in my opinion, only works with Pete Carroll as a head coach, and Brady and Belichick only worked with each other. Now, there are some exceptions to the rules. Peyton Manning was going to work with anybody. Now, Peyton Manning also has 2 Super Bowl rings. One with Denver, one with Indy. Peyton Manning was going to work with anybody. But you just look at, like, does Eli Manning, because you talk about Brian Flores. Tom Coughlin was as mean of a cuss as you got. That was from Remember the Titans. Now, I may be a mean cuss, but I'm the same mean cuss. Oh, I always like that line. Anyways, Tom Coughlin was kind of nuts about it. Same way as Belichick. Got Eli Manning to win 2 Super Bowls and a defense and everything else. Does it work? Does Eli Manning work anywhere else? Maybe, maybe not. That's why football is the most entertaining product that we have, and it is why it's the most maddening product that we have. Look at other sports. LeBron James is going to work with any coach no matter what. Now, he might not win championships, but he's going to work with any coach. I know that Steve Kerr and Steph Curry, like, their way is always going to be linked to one another, but
yeah, I mean,
I've hunch Steph Curry would still be one of the best shooters, if not the greatest shooter of all time, with another coach. We see it all the time.
That being said,
of players working with different coaches. Boy, quarterbacks and coaches in the NFL, if you don't get that relationship right, nothing's working.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree. I will say that, you know,
I would hope so. I think I laid out a pretty good case here.
Before he got there, you know, I've said forever, one of the biggest what ifs. How do you not sit at home on your couch if you're Mark Jackson and go, really, you know, words I can't say, mess things up there, because he had Steph Curry, he had Klay Thompson, he had Draymond Green. He had that entire team, essentially, the core. And they never got above, I think it was the 6th seed, and that's why they fired him, right? And then it was Steve Kerr bringing all this motion, this, that. Steph probably still great, but he's
still going to be great.
But is he
Well,
the greatest shooter of all time without Steve Kerr? I don't know.
Who knows? But here's what I do know. LeBron James ran through coaches more than anybody, and he's the second greatest player of all time.
Still.
I mean, just run through. Kevin Durant ran through coaches left and right, ran through teams left and right. He's going to be just fine. Kevin Durant's going to go down as one of the best bucket getters of all time. I don't know if Belichick and Brady work without one another. I don't believe Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes work without one another, because, again, Andy Reid got to coach with freedom, because he's like, what are you going to do, fire me? I've already been fired. This is house money. So what did that trickle down? To Patrick Mahomes played with freedom. He's the only quarterback, though, that you should let play with freedom. Because, again, copycat league, right? You start thinking, well, if Andy Reid is just letting his hair down and letting quarterbacks play with freedom, then maybe others should. Yeah, not if you don't have Patrick Mahomes, you don't.
Would you let there's no one else you'd let cook like that in the NFL? Just for fun?
I think C.J. Stroud is going to get there. I think C.J. Stroud's going to. Now, but you know what I mean? I think he might get. And, well, now what we're going to see is, I believe we're going to see a generation, just like we saw the Jordan generation that came in and it's like, Kobe, Allen Iverson, all these guys played like Jordan. Huh, why? It's because they all idolized him. You saw the Tiger generation in golf. Well, these guys all have the same kind of swing. Yeah, because they idolized Tiger Woods. Caleb Williams. Now you watch any of those preseason games, plays a lot like Patrick Mahomes. Justin Fields, for 2 years in Chicago, not with the success, but the spin cycle and getting out of trouble and using your legs. Jaden Daniels, another one, right? C.J. Stroud. There's going to be a Patrick Mahomes generation of guys going like, oh, that's the way you do it. Well, they have a coach that works. Belichick and Brady worked. Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson worked. Guess what? Russell Wilson went away. Pete Carroll stopped going to the play. Well, he went to one playoff, but
hey, put some respect on Gino's name.
They went to one playoff as the third wild card that didn't exist before and didn't exactly.
12 still flew that day.
Didn't exactly light the world on fire. All right. We continue our countdown to kickoff. College football is 10 days away here in the great Willamette Valley. And an interesting story about Oklahoma State. Are we talking about Oklahoma State again? Yeah, we are. Next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's count down to kickoff. That is right. We are now at 10. Count them, 10 days away from football season kicking off in the Great Willamette Valley as the Ducks will be taking on the Idaho Vandals and the Beavs will be taking on the Idaho State Bengals. The entire state of Idaho is about to come to the Willamette Valley and get a whooping put on them coming up in 10 days. But other things going on in our beloved world of college football. Yesterday we talked a lot about, probably more than we needed to, but Mike Gundy fascinates me. And Mike Gundy came out and was like, tell your agent, quit calling me. We're done. We're done negotiating. Then, which I'm assuming was probably a scheduled PR press release. I wonder if the PR department at Oklahoma State was like, of all the times, coach, for you to not talk about, tell everybody we're done negotiating. Maybe yesterday was the day because they are doing something at Oklahoma State that I don't know if it's innovative. I don't know if it reeks of desperation. I don't know if it is going to become a trend or if it is going to be kind of laughable. But before we dive into it, we need to go on campus. Here we go. All right, I remember last year, Colorado Buffaloes and new head coach Deion Sanders came out with their practice uniforms, and on the back of their practice uniforms was all the players' Instagram handles on the back of their practice uniforms, and I was like, that's interesting. I wanted to poo-poo it, but of all the things that Coach Prime has done that I thought was a little bit questionable, that one I was like, it might have something there. Kids live on Instagram. All these players are obsessed with Instagram. Their Instagram numbers are kind of their value, their lifeblood. And also, if you know anything about social media, especially on Instagram, the more followers you get, the more opportunities that you can get to make more money. The more money you make, I would say, the happier you are, and that helps with recruiting. I don't know if it quite translated. I don't know how many Colorado Buffalo fans saw them with their Instagram handles on the back of their uniform and said, I better follow that guy. But it was an interesting idea. Well, Oklahoma State's taken that step further. Now, you see it on, like, College Game Day. Every once in a while, somebody will hold up a sign with their Venmo handle on there that said, hey, send beer money at what I don't know if they ever get any money out of it, but it's an interesting attempt.
Justin, speaking of which,
Yes.
interesting story. Around this summer, there were a couple people that I saw just in my Sherwood neighborhood area said, I'm a 2024 grad on their car. Venmo me. Trying to ask the general public to Venmo them. And I'm like, if I don't know you, why would I just give you money?
I know, but what's it hurt?
I know.
Even if you get $50,
credit,
it's $50 you didn't have before. So,
it seems like a digital tin cup. Just rattle, rattle, rattle.
But it's like, hey, congratulations, graduate. Way to go.
Would you? If you were stuck behind somebody at a light and you saw.
No, I would never.
Yeah, exactly.
I would never. But, somebody might. Well, wonder what Oklahoma State fans are going to do, because Oklahoma State announced yesterday that they are going to have a QR code. Now, we all know about QR codes. We learned about those during COVID. Couldn't order a meal at a socially distanced restaurant without, no, we don't have menus anymore because, COVID spreads on paper menus. We have to have QR codes, and so we all learned how to use those. And Oklahoma State is banking on the fact that their fans sitting at home in hopefully a moment of joy and exuberance of their beloved Cowboys, maybe scoring a point or maybe getting a big stop or maybe even a big victory, are going to see the QR code on the back of their helmets that is directly linked to their NIL fund and be like, you know what? Much like I tip my Uber Eats driver, I shall tip the Oklahoma State Cowboys after a hard-fought victory. Get that QR code. I don't know how much money this is going to generate, but it can't hurt, right?
It absolutely can't.
Can't hurt. I don't think it's going to make any money, though.
Again, like I told you before, Justin.
I don't know how innovative this is, or is it the only thing that we're, because much like you talked about with that graduate, it's like, does it kind of reek of desperation?
A little bit. But that being said, though, Justin, like
But
I
like
said,
the line of desperate and innovative is so thin.
So, again, if you would have found me 10 years ago when I was a little more peak super fandom rather than the objective reporter that I am now.
So objective, especially about Jonathan Smith.
Yes, true.
Not emotional about that at all.
No, not one bit. That being said, it's interesting because, like, I don't know, Justin, like, if I was a super fan and it was like, oh, okay, Travis Hunter or whoever caught a game-winning touchdown, here's his QR code if you want to send him some cash. I'd be tempted if I was a Colorado super fan.
I think it's better this way, too, because it's basically playing to people at home. Now, I'm a season ticket holder at Oregon. I go to the games, and the last thing...
Really fancy seats from what I've heard.
They're nice. They are nice.
So you don't deny it?
I wouldn't say really fancy, but...
you know,
they're good seats.
Autzen Stadium, a lot of the seats
Just
are
I
the
don't
same.
have to worry about weather.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Because I remember...
I don't have to worry about weather at games.
For like a good
Whether
year and a half.
Whether it's either sun or rain.
Yeah, good year and a half, I knew Justin. He's like, oh, yeah, I got season tickets. And I remember one time, like, you going to be dry? I'm going to be... And Justin's like, I don't get wet at Doug games.
I don't get wet
at
Doug
I'm
games.
just like, what?
Nope.
Well, anyway.
Very nice. That being said, I don't know if appealing to people at the games would work, because if I'm at a game, I'm like, wait a minute, I already donated. I'm paying you season tickets. I'm buying $8 beers left and right. I just bought an $11 nacho, and now you want me to give $50 to this kid? No. But if you're sitting at home watching a game on your couch, get real excited, or maybe it's the other way. Maybe you're like, why can't we block? What's that QR code? We need to buy a couple of offensive linemen right now. Can we protect our quarterback next year? Get that QR code. But I just found it very funny that a day after Mike Gundy kind of took the internet by storm going, tell your agent to quit calling. But fans, if you want to continue to donate to our NIL fund, teams are going to start getting more and more, I think, clever with this. I've said, you need to link it to concessions. Beer.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I said, get a beer, make it your NIL beer or whatever. Every beer you buy, boom, money goes right into the collective. It'd make me feel better about buying a beer at a ball game. Anyways, we got hour number 2. We got to make or miss. We got stuff we saw on the internet. And I have made a decision that I never thought I would ever make in my life. I'll tell you what it is next. 620 Rip City Radio.
7 a.m. on a Wednesday. Brenden Slaughter with you. Former Dolphins coach Brian Flores responds to Tua Tagovailoa's comments, saying his words hit hard, but he's evolved and will continue to grow as a coach and leader of men. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones says he and wide receiver CeeDee Lamb have had promising extension talks.
You got to do the Jerry Jones voice. You got to do the Jerry Jones voice.
I don't know if I can do it as good as you, Justin. Lamb has not participated in training camp so far. Coming up on the big show, we got a full hour number 2, including Make or Miss, and Tyson Alger in hour number 3. You got Rip City Mornings here on a Wednesday.
Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. I just thought you put Jerry Jones in the update, and you're doing the updates now. It's like what a better way to be like, me and old CD were having just real good discussions. I don't see anything. I don't see anything holding us back from being at 100% full speed come opening weekend.
We got one
see
more
old
update.
CD. He's gonna be great. I was like, do the Jerry Jones voice.
We got one more after the show. We might try it, or it could flame out and probably be like, Brenden, stop doing them updates.
What was the we've had promising extension talks. You're not participating. I ain't worried about all that mess. Old CD, he's gonna be just fine. Jerry Jones.
Classic.
What a character. Again, I know not everything in Jerry Jones' past is always the best. There's a lawsuit recently, and there was a picture of him from back in the day that kind of resurfaced. And I don't know. Hopefully, I don't get killed for saying this. I just think football's better with characters, and Jerry's a character. You need to have.
He's not a boring owner. Say that.
You need somebody,
and he's not. And I'll say this too, Justin, because
old Dak's gonna be just fine.
Yeah,
don't worry about it. Old Dak's gonna be just fine.
Again, the NBA is a little bit different, but one thing I've always appreciated, Justin, because we don't have one in Portland for our basketball team, and we don't have a football team. I've always appreciated those GMs who are like, yeah, I'm going to go on the local radio show weekly, give updates. Like Jerry Jones always on the radio.
He does have his own show.
Or like how Daryl
I think he gets paid a pretty penny for that.
Sure, or how like Daryl Morey is always on with the we're lucky if we hear from Joe Cronin publicly once or twice a year. You know what I mean? Like it's just different perspective. So to see owners or GMs that are like out and like, or even Mark Cuban.
It is interesting.
Mark Cuban when he was an owner.
As a media person, I think, boy, it'd be really cool to have Joe Cronin on our show once a week. I would love it. As just professionally, as a fan, though, do you want to know how the sausage is made?
Good question.
Like that's what I would wonder. Like as a fan, I don't like it. In Dallas, it probably is a net positive, because Jerry's on he'd never pass up a microphone. Whether it's a scrum at practice or like you said, a weekly radio spot or whatever. But I don't know. As a fan, I don't know if I want to know exactly what is on ownership's or management's side. Like Brenden said, we got Make or Miss coming up in a couple of minutes. We got stuff we saw on the internet. And listen, one thing I have learned in my age is that you cannot be can't be a slave to yourself, your former self. You cannot let certain things handcuff you. And it's taken a while to learn that as now soon to be, in just a couple of weeks, 45-year-old man, that, there are certain things that I said I would never do that turns out I might have been wrong. And I will now be able to do it. We talk about it with food all the time. I would never put pineapple on pizza. It might be pretty good. I don't hate it. I'm not against it. I don't like ketchup on a hot dog, but you know what? You do you with your hot dog. And there is something that I did yesterday, Brenden, that I never thought I would ever do.
Can I guess?
I never thought I would ever do it. I don't know. We have not talked about this, so sure.
Is it something related to food?
It is not.
Okay. Then I thought I might have a guess. Like you're like, I tried. I had. So yeah, no, I got nothing. So go ahead.
I have been adamant over the years about how I am fairly stuck in my ways in the way I consume media. Cut the cord yesterday. Did it. It's gone. Did it.
Proud.
Felt so weird.
It's so good, though.
It felt so weird. Now that the news has come down, and I guess there were some things that were leaking on the internet yesterday about the Blazers, but it turns out it might not be 100% wholly accurate. But sounds like the Blazers are fairly close to getting some sort of a TV deal done, and I am hoping. Again, I don't know anything. I don't have sources. You guys listen to this show long enough, they're like, "Yeah, Justin, we know. You don't have to tell us." But I am. It seems like it would be such a massively missed opportunity for the Blazers not to put their product on free local TV. We talked about it with Devon Pouncey yesterday. Just you think about, and I'm glad Devon was on yesterday and talk because I forget. There's a whole group of people that can't afford cable TV. I know this because cable is insanely expensive. I finally had to take a look and do the math, and once the Blazer news came down, and I feel like now that I am going to be able to cut the cord and I'm going to be able to watch still every Blazer game, the only thing that was keeping me on was I needed to have Root. So I had to because of the job, and I could imagine if I was a diehard Blazer fan, the amount of money that you would have to spend just to watch your favorite team, and then the breath of fresh air you must have to know that maybe, potentially, the Blazers are going to be on free TV, free local TV. You just go out and you get yourself a pair of rabbit ears, or you get it's a plastic thing. It's an antenna. It doesn't even look that bad. It's not like the old tinfoil rabbit ears that is like the big tube TV that still hangs out at your grandparents' house. The idea that the Blazers, you could watch, if not nearly every game on free TV, has got to feel like such a gift.
Yeah,
to not just diehard Blazer fans, but Blazer fans all up and down the Portland Metro, considering I know how much you had to spend on cable because I was spending it.
Well,
I was spending it. So what? And once the Blazer news came down, I was like, "That's it. I'm going to go in. I'm going to do my research. I have done said research." I feel like such a millennial. I feel like I got such Riz.
So
I got so much Riz right now.
So
no cap, all Riz. What?
Just for
I'm just doing what the kids say because I'm a cord cutter now.
Just for perspective,
I'm not a Gen Xer anymore. I got the Riz.
I'd like to remind you that I've been telling you to do it for over a year. Over a year. Because I went to Fubo. It was about this time last year when I had Justin's moment. I pretty much told Comcast they could kick rocks. I was sick and tired of paying how much they were paying. And Fubo, even at the price that it was ridiculously cheaper.
Well, here's the thing about it that that really pushed me over the edge. Obviously, the Blazer news pushed me over the edge. But the other thing was, and I have said, look, I use streaming to watch all my shows. But sports was still not quite there. Even a year ago, even 2 years ago, sports on streaming wasn't quite there. Two things changed my mind, and I think it's going to change a lot of people's mind. NFL and Prime figured it out. Right? The NFL and Prime figured it out. I said a year ago, that's going to be the great experiment because sports and streaming still wasn't a better product than watching sports live on cable. People have second screens now. People are on social media, the lag time and everything that it is. But once Amazon figured it out, shocker, Bezos, once Amazon kind of figured it out, you could see like, okay, this is the way everybody's going to start watching sports now. Then I really think the topper, the way the Olympics were on Peacock, and I watched all of my Olympics on streaming. Now, Olympics is a little bit different because obviously they jump around from sport to sport, and I don't do a lot of tweeting. I don't do a lot of tweeting in general, but a lot of tweeting about said Olympics. But I'm watching the Olympics on Peacock, streaming most of it, and there is no bigger event in the world. Not the Super Bowl, not the World Cup. Nothing is bigger than the Olympics, and the fact that NFL football figured it out last year and that the Olympics figured it out this year, and the massive, massive TV deal that the NBA just signed that has a whole lot more streaming than we have ever seen before. Right? You look at what the NBA deal, yeah, a big chunk of that's NBC. That's going to be one game a week. The rest of the NBA on NBC, it's going right to Peacock. It's going to be streaming. I watched the NBA playoffs this year, most of it on Max.
Right.
They've figured out sports on streaming, and cord has been cut.
So your next step, Justin, and I know this because you told me, your next step will be to, and maybe you won't, but you told me you were still hanging with Comcast Internet. You can go cheaper.
All right, here's why I'm hanging with Comcast Internet. Again.
High reviews of Ziply Fiber over here.
Okay.
Solid
let's
group.
not give free advertising. Let them pay us
they
a
can
little
sponsor
bit.
the program.
And why would they? You're just sitting here singing their praises.
True.
Anyways, here's my thought on this. I keep my Comcast account. And I'm probably overpaying for internet. I've been overpaying for cable for years. If this streaming thing doesn't work, I'm going right back to cable. I don't know if I'm going to. I'm going to go right back to it. It's my safety blanket. It is my like you see the Wallenda, the guy Nick Wallenda, the tightrope walker guy, when he walked over the Niagara Falls, but they made him put like a safety harness on. That's kind of the way I'm at right now. Whereas like, if there's ever a spinning wheel of death, lag time, especially with an Oregon football game on the road.
So then,
we're going right back to cable.
So can I push back and say if there is a lag time, it's entirely possible that's Comcast's internet that's lagging, not the streamer lagging?
You never know.
So I just say keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open this is a massive step for your boy who said you will never take my cable remote till you pry it from my cold dead hands. Well, as Brian Flores said, I've evolved. Did you go to YouTube? Or
yeah, I may have taken the money I saved and spent that on Sunday Ticket.
Oh, YouTube TV is so like I would recommend to anybody.
I have presented this whole thing to Kelly about like, hey, we're going to save this much money, and then we could take that savings. We could just put like we're already spending it every month, so we just get Sunday Ticket, right? And she's like, I thought we were trying to save money, and I'm like,
long term,
it's Sunday Ticket though. We can get it for basically free. She calls it Justin math. On the internet, they call it girl math, which is I don't like that at all. But she calls it Justin math, where it's like, no, I've saved this money that we were already going to spend. So essentially, we're getting Sunday Ticket for free.
Yeah,
so you're welcome. I have got a Sunday Ticket for free. And tip of the cap to the Blazers for putting it over the edge and essentially getting me Sunday Ticket for free. All right. Coming up, we have got Make or Miss here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 1 hour from now, Tyson Alger is going to join the program from the I-5 corridor. Get the latest on Oregon football as we are 10 days away from college football kicking off in the Willamette Valley. Saturday, we got football. We got football in Dublin on Saturday. Florida State and Georgia Tech.
Watch the whole thing?
Have no interest in either one of those, but I have very much interest in watching college football on Saturday. Very pumped.
Probably watch like a quarter.
Man, I'm a sicko though. Like
I feel it, but like
I am true. Like you are with video games. I am a college football sicko. Like
2042 currently in the.
You're in 2042
in the dynasty.
How many natties you got?
12.
By the way, can I just say something real quick? Because I don't know if it gets. As a matter of fact, I know it doesn't get enough pub, but before 2010, nobody had ever used the term natty for a national championship. No one. Never.
It's true.
Go back and
It's
look at any
100%
publication of the word natty as never used. From what I believe, and you know what? I will die on this hill. First guy to ever use the term the natty, Oregon defensive back Cliff Harris. And I know this because my friend was a reporter at the Oregonian and got the quote, and Oregon had just beaten Arizona to technically win. They won the Pac-10 the week before Civil War. They won the Pac-10, but they were 11-0, and there was still a game. So they'd already clinched the Pac-10 championship, but they had to win one more game against the Beavs to play in the national title. And
can I tell you?
A reporter went to Cliff Harris, was like, how do you feel about winning the conference? He says, yeah, I believe the quote was, conference is cool and all, but we about that natty. And far as I know, no one has ever said the natty as a slang term for the national championship. Now, maybe the players did for years, and I just didn't know it, but Buddy got the quote, came up to me. I was doing the post-game show, said, hey, did you see this? And I'm like, we're definitely talking about that. And the term the natty was born. And now everybody uses it. It's like it's commonplace now.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
I like to think I was there for the birth of the origin of the phrase the natty.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I remember it really well. Quick aside. Before
I don't care if somebody else was saying it in 2008. I don't care. This is the story I tell.
Quick aside, because this will be a fun story, Justin, because I know it's something you like too. Real quick, I'll go ahead and delay for you, but I threw a link in our document just on the 7 o'clock hour because I pulled up a picture that I want you to see. And it was that game, or link a little higher than that one.
Little higher.
Yep, a little higher than that one.
You can see. All right.
I see his little mouse.
Go.
But that game featured two of the best uniform combos. Maybe, like, those are some of my all-time favorite Oregon State combos.
So was that 2010 game?
Yeah.
So those the Giant Killer uniforms?
They were. I'm like, and Oregon's like,
okay,
white and silver. Like, it was I remember being at that game super vividly. Very
all right,
cold.
I'm going to go a little hot takey here. Oregon got a little heavy-handed with the silver.
Okay.
And again, I'm a green and yellow guy. And I realized, look, the uniforms are for the kids. I thought Oregon got a little heavy-handed with the silver.
You're saying that about Oregon?
Nobody has been more vocal about Oregon uniforms, both positively and negatively, than I was the one that was like, are we sure we want to dress up like the mascot and play a football game? I don't think that's a good idea. Sure, we want to put a topographical map. Like, I know we're kind of running out of stuff to put on the uniforms.
The Oregon Trail ones were tough. Those were.
And again, if they'd have won,
right?
If they'd have won that game, who knows? But still don't. To my dying day, it's like, you guys try to dress up like Donald Duck for a game.
I remember the orange.
Not all ideas are great ideas. You guys try to dress up like Donald Duck for a game.
The helmet.
Like, oh, those are sweet. It's like, no, those were not sweet. Those are weird.
The helmet grid was like the duck bill. God.
Yeah.
That was, I still got to give creativity points. It didn't hit, but man,
the socks were orange. Now, again, if they would have went out that day and Dakota Prukop would have crushed Colorado, maybe it's in the rotation but they didn't, and they're looking like a cartoon duck. I'm all for innovation, but I don't know if that's the. So what I was going to ask you though about the Beavs,
shoot.
I would imagine all of Beaver Nation out on the sports bra uniforms, right?
So can I tell you
ones?
A little behind the curtain, Justin? There are those, yes, generally, but as time has gone on, there are those.
People want to bring them back?
What?
People want to bring them back?
Not bring them back, but those in the fan base who are just observing and go, that's the last time we beat Oregon in Autzen. That has been thrown out a handful of times. The last couple times Oregon State's gotten rimrocked at Autzen. It's like they beat them in Autzen. They have not since.
Wearing the orange sports bras.
But yes, generally, very not the greatest look. They canned them after a year.
The other one that I'm curious about, because I don't know, I think it's 2016 where the stripes on the helmet also became the stripes on the face mask.
Yeah, not my favorite.
You're out on those.
Not my favorite. They kind of did and you'll see
again if you did one more, maybe those would be the coolest things ever.
That's the thing is we added some silver too. Gary Anderson tried to do some tweaks, and they're trying to do anything to get the football program excited, right? Because they couldn't win. In hindsight,
and they just quit.
But yeah, they tried the silver beeve. They tried some military appreciation, just different little tweaks.
Yeah, those are always good to do.
Yeah, and
I just wondered about because the stripe on the face mask.
Yeah, and I think that's the one that Ryan Nall has on our photo just right out here.
I walk by it every day.
It was like the beaver teeth, right? It's okay. But I'll say this. Shout out to Nike because they gave the Beavers a nice refresh as they approach their Pac-2 future. Definitely didn't have to do that with their unclear future. But no,
they should, the fact
nice,
that they
Justin.
don't have at least
they've got a
one or two games every year where they wear the 2000s era uniforms. They should wear those. The year 2000, the Men in Black uniforms. The fact that they with the White Sox, those are the best Oregon State uniforms.
Yeah,
now maybe it also coincides with the most successful team that they've ever had.
It's true.
That might have something to do with it. But the fact that they don't wear those as their why you wouldn't go back to it?
Yeah, like I said, they've tweaked.
I guess maybe next year, 25-year anniversary, something. But
could be. But yeah, no, they tweaked it enough this year to where we got to see the new uniforms in action this last scrimmage, and they look clean. So it's enough to be hey, yo, it's different. That kind of thing. My favorite, they went with a charcoal this year, Justin. So it's not black, not quite gray. Good looking color.
I do like going back to this 2010 game.
Sure.
Because back in the day, in the 60s, when that was the Giant Killers, right?
It was
the 60s.
Late 60s, man. You know it.
The uniforms had actual sleeves on them sleeves that went down to the middle school uniforms that I wore that I'm pretty sure were from the 60s as well. They're just
classic.
We just recycle them. Now, obviously, uniforms don't have sleeves anymore. They just tuck under the shoulder pad. So they did the shirt underneath to look like the sleeve. I thought that looked kind of cool.
Yeah,
that was kind of a cool look.
It's funny the games you remember, and there's a lot of CW games that are kind of oh yeah, I don't remember much about 2011 and there's some, but 2010, that game was a lot of fun, very cold, and you'll say this, Justin. Oregon won that game, went to the national championship. Oregon State made them earn it. That was one of the last times that a losing record Oregon State team made an Oregon team actually earn it. They tried their best. They tried their best. Well, Ryan Katz at quarterback.
37-20. 37-20
yeah,
was the final. It was closer than that. Yeah, it definitely was not a complete blowout. But that was the game where
the turf caught on fire after.
College Game Day was there, and somebody
lit the turf on fire.
Somebody stole the Corso head. Because remember, the duck was there, and he would put on the duck head, and the duck put on the Corso head. And then it was clearly an Oregon fan stole that Corso head, but because the game day was in Corvallis, Oregon State got blamed for it.
Yeah,
and Beaver fans that's some stupid Oregon fan. They're real close. They just drive up there.
Conspiracy theory, is that why we haven't gotten game day since?
Maybe.
Or is it because we just haven't been that good? Probably
Might
the latter.
be a little
Probably
bit of
the latter.
both.
But I'm just saying. Maybe
and then that one doofus tried to light a victory cigar on the turf and caught the turf on fire. Well, people were filming him.
It's true.
Smart. Anyways.
Filming back then, too. Incredible.
It's kind of nuts. All right. Good times. Let's get to Make or Miss.
All right, firing up make or miss here on a Wednesday. Justin, we'll start here. I couldn't even if I wanted to. But if I could get into USC, you couldn't stop me from taking Pete Carroll's class at USC.
All right, so we've seen this before. Didn't Mike
Leach coached football and
was a professor at Washington State.
Football and American history.
There you go.
Geronimo, baby.
Now, I don't know what. So Pete Carroll was almost softy up in KJR in Seattle, and obviously talking about what's going on. And there's a lot of, I think, intrigue because Pete Carroll's son is an assistant coach at Washington, as is Bill Belichick's son. And Bill Belichick has been spotted hanging around on Montlake with with some UW gear, and obviously there's a connection to Jed Fish because wasn't Jed Fish was like Brady's,
with Belichick for many years.
Yeah, so there's obviously a connection
Lots
there.
Of connections.
And so a lot of people thought, well, is Belichick and Pete Carroll both coaching for Washington? Turns out no. Pete Carroll said, I'm in L.A. He just got back from like Kuwait or something.
Yeah, no, he went. Yeah, he went. He's like internet. I mean, that's Pete Carroll, man. He's gonna be smacking that gum, just smiling everywhere, man.
So he says he's in L.A. He's back at USC, and he is a professor. And I don't know what the class is. Do you know? He didn't say. He actually teased it and just said you'll have to wait and see. That's right.
So he teased it. So again, knowing what I know about USC, again, big into film, drama. Again, most every actor that you've heard has come out of USC. That being said, I wonder if
even a couple of actors' kids go to USC.
It's true.
They're on the rowing team.
True.
Aunt Becky's kid went to USC.
Looking at you, William H. Macy. I forget his wife's name. But yeah, looking at William H. Yeah.
What is her name?
What is her name? Let's look it up.
Why am I blanking on this?
Felicity Huffman. There you go. So again, if you believe the story, Felicity Huffman did it all. William H. Macy was like, oh, I don't know what happened. So, that's old
More
news.
importantly, Aunt Becky.
Aunt
Becky was like, had to get her kid in.
I know, right? But, no, I thought this is cool, Justin, and in a fun way, like, again.
You think Pete Carroll ever coaches again?
He was the oldest coach in the NFL.
I
don't mean to be ageist. I've tried very
hard.
No,
but if they're, like, age, like, it depends. Because you see some 60-year-old coaches, and you go, like, that guy is miserable. And then you see, like, Pete Carroll, clearly still, and I know this is a term we only use for old people, but spry, right? Spry is a term you only use for old people, but.
So I don't think he'd ever go back to college with the NIL.
No, I don't think so either.
It has to be NFL.
It's not, and you might think, well, maybe put him in a CEO role. That doesn't work. I could see somebody rolling the dice on Pete Carroll.
I mean, at the end, I wouldn't be surprised because at the end of this cycle, Justin, Bill Belichick will be employed again by somebody.
You think so?
I do. Whether that's
who do you think? Let's do it.
Sure.
Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, I think McCarthy's gone, and that opens up the big question: What if Jerry Jones?
Philadelphia Eagles? What about Philadelphia Eagles?
Nick Sirianni's going to be in a tough spot.
They did not end the season well.
No.
There's obviously a bunch of infighting, and if it comes down to Sirianni or Jalen Hurts, Sirianni's going to be out.
Yeah, you give Bill Belichick, Dak, or Jalen Hurts. That's exciting. But would Jerry Jones consider Pete Carroll?
I don't think so.
Would that not mesh?
I don't think that moves the needle enough.
Okay.
I love Pete Carroll, but yeah. I think Belichick's the one with all the rings. Pete Carroll. Great coach, a lot of wins, one ring.
Pete Carroll
whereas, like, Belichick's got the 6.
Yeah, like, Pete Carroll strikes me as somebody who, like, and I don't think they will, but say, like, the Jaguars fired Doug Peterson. Like, somewhere like Jacksonville that was a little more low-key kind of strikes me as somewhere
The only thing is you got that Urban Meyer stink still hanging on. And I'm not saying that Pete Carroll is Urban Meyer, but they already took a big swing on one guy to kind of move the needle, and I don't know.
Not Houston, not Indy.
No, those are all going to be good teams.
I think
Houston and Indy are both going to be pretty good.
Would he consider somewhere like the New Orleans Saints, who I think are in a big make or break it year where it's like they might fire the Sean Payton successor if they don't win, and they still got, or like what's going on with the Falcons, right? What's going on with, excuse me, the Falcons just hired Raheem Moore.
I was going to say, they have a brand. They did not want Bill Belichick.
Right.
They interviewed him twice to say thank you, but no thank you.
Meant to say the Buccaneers, right? They're going to hang on to Todd Bowles? That going to be a long-term thing?
There's that, and then I got one more.
Shoot, go for it.
Vikings.
Oh, they like Kevin O'Connell, though, don't they?
Do they? I thought there was whispers of
that could be
some frustrations, but the Vikings were not good last year. Now they just lost J.J. McCarthy for the season. Maybe he gets another pass. I don't know, but
no, it could be.
How long? How long does that? How long does that last?
I would look at that in the same breath of
because Carolina Panthers new head coach, fairly new, right? Wasn't
Dave Canales brand new hire? Yeah.
Oh yeah, Dave Canales because Reich they booted him out of there.
They did.
Cardinals, Gannon's going into year 2.
So probably safe there.
Fairly safe there. Who else is going to be in trouble? Eberflus?
That's interesting.
Boy, if Eberflus, how many years did they give Eberflus? He's got to have a rookie quarterback. Can't fire him after year 1 of a rookie quarterback, can you?
Let's see, because that's the thing. I thought he was going to get canned before. They went 3-14, 7-10. Does he take the Dan Campbell path?
But they've got if they go 7-10 again with Caleb Williams, he's fine.
He's
good.
What if it's like another 3-win season?
I don't know.
They might, right? So that's interesting because you have win.
And there's one that I'm not talking about, but what happens if the Steelers aren't good?
Oh, don't worry. Well, Justin Fields is your emergency.
What happens if the Steelers aren't?
Justin Fields
good?
is your in case of emergency break glass.
I think he might be starting week. I know we talked about this earlier. I was fully out on the idea that Fields could win this job. He might win this job.
But yeah,
if they stink again. Well, they didn't stink last year. They had a winning record, but they have not. There is a weird spot in the NFL where the Steelers are, which I think. Interestingly enough, where the Blazers were for years and years and years, where they are stuck in mediocrity. They're stuck in good. They're not Super Bowl. Their defense is, but they're not Super Bowl capable, and they haven't been Super Bowl capable since Big Ben popped his elbow. Since Big Ben popped his elbow, the Steelers have not been Super Bowl capable, but they keep making the playoffs and they keep having winning records because Mike Tomlin is a great coach. But at some point, Pittsburgh Steelers fans are going to look around going about time we get back in that Super Bowl, huh, boys? What do you think?
I still think, and I'll say this, I have been consistently out on Russ since I saw him play at Seattle week 1 against.
It's been 13 years since they've been in a Super Bowl? That's a long time for Steelers fans.
No, I hear you. Now, that being said, Justin, I have maintained, and I haven't done as much research into it as you have, I think somebody can still get the ridiculously raw potential out of Justin Fields. Now, we'll see.
I got a real crazy thought.
Shoot, and then to close out, I got a couple more Pete Carroll teams I want to throw at you. But yeah, go for it.
Robert Saleh.
What about him?
If they come out of the gate slow.
That was one of the teams I was going to mention. If Aaron Rodgers is there, do you go after Pete Carroll? No, because Pete Carroll's a running coach.
Yeah, but you can bring in Pete Carroll to coach the defense, and pretty much Aaron Rodgers is going to run the offense, and you just go what do you think?
I think Pete Carroll would jump.
New York, but now remember, there's a history there because Pete Carroll was the coach of the Jets, or defensive coordinator of the Jets, or he was the coach of the Jets. There's a history there, so I'm not sure, and I don't think it ended well. I think he was the head coach of the Jets and the Patriots.
He did. He got 1 year.
Yeah, it did not end well. He was on Monday Night Football calling for a choke and then ended up losing the game. It's kind of a pretty famous clip.
Oh, it was Dan Marino's famous clock play, that a fake spike that gave Miami a game-winning touchdown. Then the Jets lost out, and he was fired after 1 season.
Yeah, so maybe he doesn't go back to the Jets.
But again,
that was also a long time ago.
Yeah,
Dan Marino was the quarterback.
That's what I said. Was it really the Johnson family that owned the Jets back then?
I don't know.
All that kind of stuff. But if you're Pete Carroll at the end of this year, and say the Jets came to you and said, hey, we didn't meet expectations with Aaron Rodgers in this defense.
Yeah.
It would be intriguing.
It would be intriguing. It's not going to happen, though. I think now that we have just talked about it.
Can I throw out a couple more?
I don't know if he's coaching again. Yeah.
Okay, so yes. Generally, that was the other one, was the Jets. What if the Bills fire Sean McDermott?
It's interesting.
Because Sean McDermott has not, Talk about, like, Josh Allen. What is, to quote Dan Lanning, what has Josh Allen done?
Yeah, because he
Just
Because
saying.
he plays with the same conference as Patrick
That's
Mahomes.
fair. I know that's
It's
unfair.
like, what has Patrick Ewing ever done? It's like, well, he played in the East with Michael Jordan.
I know
was
it's
there,
unfair.
So.
Hey, we look at Clyde and Terry Porter the same way.
I know. All right, coming up next, we've got stuff we saw on the internet to wrap up our number 2, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Rip City Radio wants to take you up to the ball game. That's right. Head over to the contest page at ripcityradio.com for your chance to score a pair of tickets to each game of the weekend homestand when the Seattle Mariners take on the Texas Rangers September 13th through the 15th at T-Mobile Park, plus 2 nights at Hotel 5. It's a Stay Pineapple Hotel with out-of-the-ordinary hotels and extraordinary locations. Enter today at ripcityradio.com. And remember, it's not too late to plan a trip to Seattle for a Mariners game this season at T-Mobile Park. Tickets, schedule, and all the information is at mariners.com. Time for stuff we saw on the internet. Saw this this morning. Remember 2017? Hey, remember that year?
I do. Very, very, very vividly, Justin.
Do you remember one of the biggest pop culture phenomenons in 2017? You might not off the top of your head. I had to look it up.
Let me think for just a second. So 2017, talking like, yeah, too soon. Like, we're talking pop culture icons?
Huge thing, phenomenon that took over, I think, almost all of our lives for, I don't know, probably about 2 months. And then it went away, never to be heard from again. You remember IQ Trivia?
Go ahead.
IQ Trivia, where you were on your phone, and if you could answer all of the trivia, you only got one shot per day, and it was live. And there was a guy, and he was like, "Hey, welcome to IQ Trivia," and like, you had to do it live when it was going on. You could.
For that.
There we go. Well, Chipotle is bringing back IQ Trivia. That's right. It's 2017 again. Chipotle's popular and IQ Trivia is back. Hey, why not run the band back together? Because right now, if you are a Chipotle Rewards member.
Ooh, so should I open the Chipotle app and do this live as we're on the show, Justin?
Maybe. You might get a buy one, get one free prize.
Let's do it.
Because it is live right now. And if you are knowledgeable of what is going on at the Chipotle near you, you might walk away with one of, let's see, what do they give away? 5,000 buy one, get one codes per hour. And to the first Chipotle Rewards member who scored 10 out of 10 on the Chipotle IQ. So there you go.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Truth be told, I'm as far as the Mexican goes, I ride for Qdoba.
You do. You've always been a Qdoba guy.
But I like Chipotle too. It's
have
solid.
you seen the speaking of stuff I saw on the internet, the conspiracy theory with regard to Chipotle that the scoops are getting smaller, especially in the burrito bowls, that the scoops are getting smaller. So you know what people are doing? And I don't know if it's actual or if it's just what pops up on my TikTok, but like people are pretending to be content influencers. And when they go to Chipotle, they film on their phone the people making the bowls, because apparently when you film it, you get much bigger scoops of the rice.
Oh, I did not know that.
And the salsa and the chicken and the steak. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Because
I used to ride for Chipotle. They have has not been on my radar as of late, but I used to ride for Chipotle.
Yeah, I mean, there was a pretty famous, and again, Justin will laugh because he's going to go, "You're a hypocrite, Brenden." But there was a pretty famous and funny TikTok that I watched not too long ago that it was like Chipotle in 2017, and it was this worker who's like, "Oh, do you want extra chicken? Do you want extra rice?" And then it was like Chipotle worker in 2023. Yeah, you get this little tiny.
Apparently,
scoop.
like there's a whole thing. Like if you order the Chipotle online, they're getting real skimpy with the scoops. My hack, I used to always you ask for the both kinds of rice, so you get the big scoops of rice, and then you would get the you go half and half chicken and steak. They would never know how to do a half scoop, so you would always end up getting ultimately more. But yeah, you might get Chipotle's bringing back the. Did you go bowl or did you go burrito?
I went I like bowl.
I would always go bowl.
Yeah, I like bowl. I liked a burrito. I did quesadillas sometimes. Chipotle was a bit more accessible, just because there's so many of them. But no, Justin, I just popped up my app and no trivia for me. So I don't know. Maybe it was only sent to certain people, kind of a thing.
It says it started yesterday and it's running through tomorrow.
I'll have to maybe look at it later because I was like, "Ooh, this sounds fun."
Oh, it's got to be. I don't know. I think it's at every hour. So we might have to wait 9 minutes
Got you.
for you to do the Chipotle trivia quiz to see if you get the buy one, get one free. But yeah, I'm trying to think of like another place that is, I don't want to say they've gone downhill, but like 6 years ago, Chipotle was like kind of one of the trendy spots that everyone would go there. And then, I don't know, maybe COVID ruined it. Who knows?
I mean,
if there was a fast food place where I said, Brenden, you get 10 questions. 10 questions for a year of free food. But you would have to have intimate knowledge of the menu and said fast food place. Because you go to way more fast food places than I do. You go to Wendy's for breakfast.
I do.
Did you go to Wendy's yesterday for breakfast?
I did.
You went.
I did.
You did.
It's not every day, but it's funny. The days Justin asked.
If there was a place, 10 questions, and you go like, I'm putting all of it into that place. Where are you going? Where would you feel like you would have the best chance?
Panda Express.
You think you could answer 10 questions about Panda Express?
Yeah, only because like that. It'd be
I did not expect that one to
like Panda
to
or
pop
Wendy's.
up.
But yeah, like I probably Chinese food's tough to beat for me. I really like Chinese food. So
Can you really call Panda Express Chinese food?
Fast American Chinese food.
It's still good.
Right.
Like, it's still awesome.
But yeah, I'd probably rock for like Panda because I could probably name like everything on that menu. Forgotten pretty much everything on that menu at one point or another. Wendy's I could do. You stumped me with McDonald's or Taco Bell. I don't go there as much as I go to other places.
If it was like an old school trivia, like you give me trivia about McDonald's from like 1997, I'm going to crush it.
And
I'm going to absolutely crush it. Do you remember the Arch Deluxe? Because I do.
Speaking of which,
the McDLT, where the hot side was on the hot and the cold side was on the cold, because I remember that.
And I forgot to tell you, too.
Dino-sized fries during Jurassic Park? Oh, yeah.
Speaking of which, I noticed, so my brother went to McDonald's yesterday, Justin got the collector's cup that we talked about, last week or the week before?
Uh-huh.
So I was like, oh, yeah. And he's like, oh, yeah, I got the cool cup. So go figure, right?
Collector's cups were the jam. Whether it was
must
like
be popular.
The Blazer Dairy Queen
those were
glasses,
cool.
collectible glasses.
Bring
used
them
to be
back.
My entire cupboard of my childhood was just full of collectible glasses. Cool. Whether it was like the Blazers or it was like Grimace or any. Don't really do those anymore. Probably broke and hurt some kid because they don't know how to handle regular real glass. All right, we have got hour number 3 coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio.
8 a.m. on a Wednesday. Brenden Slaughter with you. Former Dolphins coach Brian Flores responds to Tua Tagovailoa's comment saying his words hit hard, but he's evolved and will continue to grow. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones says he and CeeDee Lamb have had promising extension talks. Lamb has not participated in training camp up to this point. Coming up on the big show in 20 minutes, we've got Tyson Alger on the program to talk Ducks and a little bit of everything, and the RCM mailbag and a whole lot more, including Brendan's success with Chipotle during the break. You've got Rip City Mornings, Hour 3.
Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Wednesday. So we found out that Chipotle is doing a 10-question quiz. You have to be on the rewards. Okay, quick aside. Brendan, please take this in the spirit it's intended. I've never met anybody that had more rewards things than you. Do you have a spreadsheet? Do you have a data, or do you keep it all like up in the old noggin? Because you always are like, oh no, when I go here on a Tuesday, that's a discount, and then when I get here, like, or if I get here twice a week, like you have, like, a very complex and I think very beneficial because you seem to stay on top of it. But between gas rewards and food rewards and you know, buy one, get one free. So you got a whole system going on there. And I did not know that you were a member of the Chipotle rewards because you've always been a Qdoba guy. But apparently it has paid off because you took down the trivia. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, you just get a BOGO, so you get a free. It's like you buy one, you get one. But still,
better than a stick in the eye.
Couple burritos. But oh yeah, Justin, I was telling somebody this the other day, like, whether or not it's right, because I know it's not exactly the healthiest options, but my food eating when I leave here, because I make all my dinners at home for the most part and don't really go out to eat much at dinner. It's usually just when I leave here. It is entirely, Justin, what can get me the best deal.
I know.
So,
that's what you always tell me.
Yeah, like entirely, because I like to save money.
From Sherwood to Corvallis and back, it is like if you've got a reward or a BOGO or a 15% off, like you got it.
It's true. Like,
it's impressive.
Or gift cards or anything else. Like,
dude, I've got this thing. We're going to talk about sports here in a second. Don't hold on. But I've got this my entire adult life. And I don't know if this happens to everyone, but it happens to me. My entire adult life, I have had this dream. And a dream was for some sort of a container to only hold my car keys. Because I lose my car keys. And I've had this You
don't hang them up? Like have a little hook or something to put them on?
No.
Or a bowl?
The bowl. So I'm glad you brought... So I have always, and I don't know how this happens, and maybe this happens to everybody else. Every place I have lived in, whether it is with my wife or when I was single, every place I have lived in, I have bought some sort of bowl or dish that I tell myself every single time, this is only for keys. This is only for keys. This is only for keys. Inevitably, what happens? It gets full of random nickels. Sunglasses end up in there. Pieces of mail where I go, ooh, this is important. I should put it in the dish. And now I can't find anything, especially my keys. Every single time, Brendan, I have had a dish or not even a dish, but like, you know, you go to Target and you find like a little thing and it's like, oh, that's perfect. That'll fit my keys. And then it fits some mail. And then it's like, oh, that's a bill I don't want to forget about. Put it right there. And then,
it's true.
You know what ends up in there? Gift cards. I went rummaging through. I found 3 of them. I found 3 gift cards I never spent.
Nice.
So kind of like finding a $20 bill in your pants pocket. But why is it? Why is it that, is it just me? That I can't only have a dish or a thing that is only for my keys. Inevitably, other stuff always ends up there.
That's tough. Because I will say,
and I tell myself, stay disciplined. It's only for keys.
You're not alone. I had this. When I When I was at school, the same kind of thing. I had to put my keys. I didn't have anywhere to hang them. It was, when I was living with 5 other people, you don't want to just leave them on the counter kind of a thing. So I would always misplace my keys at school. Since I have, gotten out of school and have a place now, it's very convenient, Justin. Right when you open our door, there's a hall tree. And that hall tree has 4 little hooks.
Yeah.
One for my keys, one for my brother's keys, one for mom's keys, so on. And thankfully, as long as I put them there, that has ameliorated any of the issues that you mentioned.
Now, I've tried that as well. I also have, it's not a tree, but because no big deal. I can make stuff now. I'm pretty handy. But I made a fairly decorative, coat rack.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And one of the hooks was going to be for keys. Well, guess what always happens? Then I put a coat over the top of it. And then another coat goes on top of that. And then now where are my keys? It's under 2 And so now coat rack is a dog leash.
Yeah, our dog leash is on our coat rack too. Nice.
Dog leash.
Nice.
And other than that, it remains unused because I cannot be trusted with a coat rack because I stack coats upon one another and it just gets to be a mess. Anyways, talked about this last hour. I have cut the cord. I have cut the cord, and not that any of you care about the way that I – thank you, Brenden. But I was thinking about, the 2 biggest things that we have seen, I believe, in the last year, and really one of which just a couple of weeks ago, in terms of watching and viewing sports into the future, was when the NFL decided that they were going to put Thursday Night Football on Prime Video. And I remember, Brenden, we talked about it last summer when that decision came down. I said, that's going to be kind of a make or break for sports on streaming because forever, and I talk about this because I go to a lot of sports bars, and for years, it was real simple. If you owned a sports bar, you got DirecTV, you got Sunday Ticket. It probably cost a lot of money, but you would have that set up. And it always hurt because there was no Pac-12 network and there was no Root Sports, or excuse me, no Comcast. But you go to a bar and they would have DirecTV set up because you have to have it for a Sunday Ticket. And I was wondering how many of these sports bars on Thursday night are going to be able to hook up Prime Video, and are their bartenders or the manager going to know, yep, this is a different input and a thing like that? And it worked itself out. It did.
Saw sports bars right in front of me. Go fire up YouTube TV on the smart TV.
Exactly. It worked itself out, and people figured it out. And to me, that was such a huge step moving forward for sports. Because before that, could you imagine trying to stream a game and you get the spinning wheel of death and it wasn't.
Or you'd have people take a computer, hook it up via HDMI,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
That was people do that all the time. I did that.
Heck, it was 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And then now with NFL on Prime Video and the fact that also the NFL is going to be on Netflix and the fact that the Olympics, while I know they were on NBC, but during the day, Peacock app worked really well for the Olympics, especially if you were like me. I only want to watch the men's basketball game. I don't want to jump around. Oh, yeah, go to the Peacock app, boom, right there. Or if you only want to watch one thing. And other than the NFL, I would say the only entity bigger than the NFL in the world for sports, definitely the World Cup. World Cup's bigger than the NFL. I'm an ugly American, but I know numbers, right? But the Olympics is the biggest. It's the biggest stage. It's why when you want to showcase certain things like flag football, it's got to go to the Olympics. And the fact that the Olympics were, I would say, I watched more Olympics this year because just fire up the app. They created. Did you see the Gold Zone? I think it was called the Gold Zone or the Gold Channel or something. Basically, they created the Red Zone.
Yeah,
where it's hey, a gold medal is about to be won here. Let's go to the fencing. And I'm like, that is really, really cool. And now looking forward, because before I eventually cut that cord, I mostly unplugged it. I haven't fully cut it just quite yet. I might go back. I doubt it, but I might. But
are you sending back the equipment, or are you hanging on to it?
No, equipment's going back.
Okay, so
equipment's pretty expensive if you hang on to it. You got to. No, I'm sending the equipment back. Kept my account though.
Yeah, so you're gonna rock with Comcast internet and then YouTube TV.
Yes.
Plus all the other stream. That's a good winner.
Plus all the other streaming.
That's a great winner, man. I have no.
But I
complaint.
Went down. But I did. I haven't done this kind of research since college, and even then, I probably didn't do this kind of research, Brenden, because I was not. But I was like, all right, what is every Oregon game on? But all right, can I watch this without? And it's like, yeah, turns out you can. Then it was like, all right, what about Washington games? Because I live with a Washington
Maybe you
Husky.
should have thought that first.
No, don't think I should have. But all Big Ten games, like, all right, can I get every Big Ten game?
Shoot, yeah.
Do I have the CW? Which I do. And
turns out it's a really easy throw-in to get the CW, Justin. It's on like every streaming service ever. So kind of interesting there.
And also, if you get an antenna, it's free.
That too. It'd be way easier to find Beaver games this fall.
And it was one of those things where I've always said the only thing holding sports back or holding back, I think, full on streaming is because live sports, and I think they've kind of figured it out. And the fact that the NFL has not backtracked at all. And the NFL rarely backtracks, but they have every once in a while.
No, they doubled down.
They don't really do that. I know, that's what I'm saying. They didn't backtrack, but they doubled down. And Amazon Prime gets the Black Friday game. What Christmas is what Netflix gets?
Netflix gets 2 on Christmas.
Netflix will get 2 games. And then especially the NBA. The NBA, not this season, because it's still going to be on TNT, but next season, if you don't have streaming, there's going to be a lot of games you're not going to be able to see.
A ton. Like, you will be out of the loop if you can't. I mean, they'll all be
now, the good news is hopefully the Blazers will be on free TV,
yes,
and you'll be able to just plug in an antenna with whatever TV you can find. And judging by certain parts of the city, you can just find one on the corner anywhere. Like you've seen it. You've seen it. You drive by a corner, like, there's a TV there. And while I have TVs that I very much like, I still have that college kid mentality every once in a while. When you drive by, like, did you ever do that on, like, finals week? Where it's like, let's drive by, like, the rich kid apartments and see, like, what they're throwing away a couch or a recliner. There's always something.
Oh, yeah.
I would scrounge.
Oh, yeah. It's like, then there's stuff.
But now, like, I'm a grown adult.
Oh, yeah. Then there's, like, you'd grab that stuff. And I remember there was stuff, like, we met with our landlord, and when we were moving out, and we're like, can we just, like, leave the couch for the next people? And he's like, yeah, sure. So, yeah, like that.
Dude, we used to do that, every spring.
Drive around looking for stuff. That's
it's
all.
like, oh, somebody's going to leave a TV or something. And I was like, we are going to pick that up. But, yeah, it is. And also the other thing is, didn't really get a lot of pushback when I canceled my my cable.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
I feel like I'm not the only one calling this guy. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk some Oregon football. We are 10 days away from Oregon kicking off. Our good friend Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joins us next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we are 10 days away. 10 days away from Oregon kicking off their football season at Autzen Stadium. They'll be taking on the Idaho Vandals, and we are wrapping up training camp and getting ready for game week. Not a lot for Oregon football in camp this year in terms of a lot of competition, but we know who the starting quarterback's going to be. Not a lot of coaching turnover. So it's been kind of a quiet camp. Joining us now, friend of the program from the I-5 corridor who goes in depth into the Oregon football program when goofballs like me merely scratch the surface. Also, he was partying his face off with the Foo Fighters the other day. Tyson Alger back on the big show. Tyson, how we doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. The face has returned, so we're back to work this week. Enough concerts for the weekend.
So how was Foo Fighters? Was it pretty awesome?
It was really cool, man. I really loved the Foo Fighters when I was younger. I don't listen to them so much now. Like as an adult, it's rare that I'll get into the car and throw the Foo on. But I will say this is the second time I've seen them in person, and I've never seen a band that puts more energy and care into a live show. And so this was 10 years after I saw them the first time, and like they just absolutely ripped, man. Like it was they played for 3 hours. They had fireworks. It was there was no filler. It was just a really, really, really good time, and it has me pretty darn excited about the potential of downtown concerts like moving into the future. I know they have Green Day next month, but the Foo were an awfully good time to start that new concert series out.
All right, here's what I'm going to ask, because you say 3 hours, and I always felt like, and I go to a lot of concerts, I feel like there's a sweet spot. There's a sweet spot, usually around 2, maybe a little bit over 2 hours. Like if I don't get a 2-hour show, I feel like I'm not really getting my money's worth. I've been to a couple of 3-hour shows, and I almost feel like I'm having to push through. You didn't feel like it was a little bit too much. Where's your sweet spot when you go to a group or a concert that you are really looking forward to? Like, is there no time limit? Because you hear about like these 4-hour Bruce Springsteen sets, and I'm like, that seems exhausting.
Yeah, it was right on the line.
Right there.
Again, the first time I saw Foo, they played like 3.5 hours, and I was a young 21-year-old who was like, "Hey, let's be in the pit the whole time and stand for the entire concert." And that was pretty miserable by the time you got to like the point where like Dave Grohl's like, "All right, we're out of songs. Like, who wants us to do some covers?" And it's like, just stop. I want to go home. 10 years later, I've adapted, and I've come to grips with the fact that I very much enjoy having a seat that is close to restrooms and other conveniences. And so they our press badges worked for Foo Fighters, so I was just up in the press box, and I've sat through some pretty long like Oregon Ducks football games or extra innings baseball games in the press box. So I was okay with I think the Foo hit it just about right timing wise.
Okay, Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor, who's joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio, and we shall talk about Oregon football in a moment. But I'm fascinated by this because Brenden knows this. You and I know this, Tyson, and I think most fans know this. There is I don't know if it's as strict as it used to be, but fairly strict. There is no cheering in the press box. This is a place for work. Now, the lines have been blurred a little bit in terms of media and fan. Hello, I am one. But I still know the decorum of the press box. I've never watched a concert, though, in the press box. Was there cheering in the press box? Was there singing along when the big song hits? Like, what was it like up there in the press box? A place that is, let's be honest, a little stuffy.
Yeah, I was up there shushing everybody. I was screaming, "This isn't appropriate. Let's be professional. Put those beers away." I made an exception for this one.
I like it. Did it feel weird though? Did it feel a little bit weird? I'm pretty straight edge here, Justin, and boy, that gave me a rush. That first clap that I did from my seat was, I'm just going to be chasing that the rest of my career. Yeah, I mean, people may not understand, but like I've been there in both college and NFL where like one person gets into the press box who does not know the rules. and you hear a clap, and all of a sudden, like in Animal House when they walk into the Dexter Lake Club, like that is what you hear. One clap or one like cheer in a press box, all of a sudden is like record scratch, and it's weird.
Well, and to be completely honest, and this is just between you and I, it had been a bit coming to the Providence Park press box, because I feel like at Oregon they're pretty on top of if occasionally an Oregon staff or an intern gets in there and starts cheering, I feel like eventually you'll have Greg Walker come over the PA, like, no cheering in the press box. And when the Timbers unveiled their new Tillamook sponsor before, what was that, the Seattle game a few months ago, I think I was the only person in the press box who didn't like stand up and give it an ovation. So that one kind of felt a little bit different, but we're learning here.
I appreciate you not standing up and clapping for Tillamook as well, because, I'm Quadary is the premier ice cream.
Overrated cheese, man. Like, salted a little bit, right?
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, heading into this season, Tyson, I mentioned it right at the top of the segment. Like, Oregon doesn't have a competition at quarterback. Usually, that's a pretty big storyline. Don't have new coordinator. That's usually a pretty big storyline in camp. It feels like it's been fairly quiet down in Eugene, outside of they're the number 3 team in the country. They got a first place vote. Where do you think this team is in terms of kind of dealing with the pressures of what is the upcoming season? Because you have a new quarterback, but there was never going to be a battle. You do have 2 familiar coordinators and a head coach that's not going anywhere. Do you get a sense like that there is kind of pressure on this Oregon team? Because it's as high of expectations as I can remember.
Yeah, like I get the sense that there's pressure in the sense that, that like they're well aware of how good they are and what people think they should do. And I don't want to get like too much into the weeds of the cliches here, but this is definitely a team that like expects that out of themselves. It was funny. I remember earlier in my career covering this beat, a lot of times, it would almost be, they wouldn't slip up and say, like, we're going to win the Pac-10 this year or Pac-12 this year, or like our goal is the national championship. It'd always be kind of like win the day and, that sort of, day-to-day sort of stuff. And that's still what it is in a sense, but like this is a team that is and coaching staff that has openly said that they want to win a national title, and that's the goal, and they want to win Phil Knight a national title and all those sorts of things. So like, yes, there is going to be inherently some pressure built into that, but I do think the stability of having both coordinators return for the first time in a very long time, I think that's big. I think Dan Lanning's very comfortable now in his 3rd year, in his 3rd fall camp. Yes, you do have new players at quarterback and backup quarterback, which traditionally leads to like the main storyline in fall camp, but that's not the case just because Dylan Gabriel comes in with a pedigree that is pretty unassailable. And so like there's been every day of fall camp availability, there's generally been some, like, the guys are, there's a lot of talk of cohesion and teamwork and, like those sorts of things. But like the fairly large question marks and kind of the adversity hadn't really reared its head in the first couple of weeks. Obviously that changed a little bit towards the end of last week when they lost their starting offensive guard to a knee injury. But, this isn't Oregon in the past where, you're replacing a really good guy with a not as good guy on the depth chart. The Ducks are pretty loaded, so they're able to throw in a guy like Nishad Strother, who has 3 career starts at the FBS level. And, that's kind of, it's a pretty good camp when, like, that's kind of like the main kind of bugaboo that you're going through.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. I think I can't remember which college football podcast I was listening to. I was listening to a handful of them. I'm a sicko, Tyson. I am fiending right now. It's 10 days away, and I'm not doing well with the weight right now. As a 8-year-old kid, like 10 days before Christmas is about where I am at right now. But it was an interesting discussion about Oregon. Whereas on paper, right, they're sitting in the top 5. Well, I think they're a crazy projection to make the playoff with 12 teams. They're the second best odds to win the Big Ten, but to me, is there something that maybe we're missing? Because I do believe that in college football, certain teams get up for certain games. I do believe in motivation. And I have to wonder if there are some stuffy old Big Ten fans who are just like, whoa, wait a minute. So this team out west who's never really won anything on a national championship level, who just joined our conference last year, is going to come in and be favored. I wonder if there's going to be something there with not jealousy, but maybe some extra motivation from some Big Ten schools like Wisconsin and Michigan who are just like, wait. You're just not going to come into the Big Ten, especially a new supersized Big Ten. To me, it's interesting that hasn't quite been a big-time storyline, maybe also because it's August.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like, if you're the four former Pac-12 teams that are moving into the Big Ten, I'm pretty sure every one of those fan bases have been able to convince themselves, maybe other than UCLA, that, like, they're going to be a factor in this conference, and that's kind of part of the excitement level. And I've never really kind of put myself in the shoes of what average Joe Big Ten fan feels like, because I was listening to something similar a couple of days ago where they were talking about the Big 12 and how Utah kind of automatically is the front runner for that conference, and that's kind of got to be a weird one for some of those Big 12 teams and fan bases to take, just because it's Utah, right? It's not Oregon. Like I know we all have respect for Utah, but I feel like that's been a team that's just very quietly been going about its business out here on the West Coast, and so I do think that there's going to be some settling with all these new teams and kind of the hierarchy. But yeah, like I very much could see Oregon quickly becoming like the most hated team in the Big Ten, just because it's like the Ducks aren't being patient. They're not showing up to the party and trying to learn everybody's names and like, oh, I'm not going to go be first person in line for the food. Like, but the Ducks are. They're coming for the main course there. They're coming up for seconds, and I think it's going to be fascinating. The one thing that, like, getting back into the projections and how they're expected to be this team. The one thing that I'm just curious about is, we know all these players are good. We know they would return certain pieces from last year's roster, but again, it's a brand new quarterback. You're going to have a new starting running back. You have so many new pieces on defense. Like, I just want to see how this team gels together and is able to compete through adversity in games like that, because we learn so much about teams that have the same roster over a few years, and you kind of learn how they deal with those games or like that adversity. And this is still a pretty fresh group the Ducks have right now.
I do think, Tyson, one of the things that's interesting kind of looking ahead to week 2, because there was some fairly big news that came out of Boise, and Boise obviously is on both Oregon and Oregon State's schedule, and that's the fact that Malachi Nelson was beaten out. He's going to be the backup. And it's funny because you go back a couple of years ago, and I love that there is the crazy fandom in college football. Heck, it's half the reason we have jobs, is that there is crazy fandom in college football. But the amount of intensity of focus put on recruiting, and Dante Moore, Malachi Nelson, Arch Manning, that whole quarterback class, all three of those guys coming into the college football season, they're all backups, including Malachi Nelson and Dante Moore, who are both going to be backups at Autzen Stadium in week 2. It was one of those things that I was like, yeah, the quarterback evaluation thing still ain't perfect. They're pretty good at these 5-star and 4-stars, but these quarterback projections aren't exactly perfect.
And what's crazy too is like, I feel like if you do land a 5-star quarterback, like that's the biggest recruiting win of, insert program's name's history. Like those are few and far between. And, the Ducks obviously celebrated like that when they got Dante Moore the first time, then they lost him. But like, even if you look back to like, Ty Thompson was Oregon's highest rated quarterback recruit ever. And then he played just a few snaps and transferred. And I think he's not straight up winning the Tulane quarterback battle right now. I'll have to definitely go back and look at that. But it's just, I feel like there's certain positions where you kind of know what you're getting if you get a recruit of a certain caliber. Like, I feel like wide receivers are pretty consistently able to match their potential, maybe some of the sizable guys along the front seven. But, yeah, quarterbacks definitely just seem like it's almost like getting a top 5 draft pick in the MLB. Like, yeah, that's awesome, but we're not going to know for a couple of years whether or not it's a hit.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Tyson, a bit of personal news. I've been talking about it on the show all day today. I feel like such a millennial now. I'm the last of the Gen X, but I feel like such a millennial now. I've been saying things like Riz and no cap all morning because
that's not us. No, don't put that on us. That's the Gen Zers.
Well, no cap, a Riz,
Yeah.
all of that. But yeah. Tyson, I cut the cord yesterday. I did it. I finally did it. I cut the cord. It was finally the last straw. I am now all on the streaming, but we were talking about it because obviously the Blazer news that came down a couple of days ago. But also I looked at kind of the Oregon schedule and looked at the Big Ten schedule and just, boy, going forward, like I know that there was a whole thing with the Pac-12 and Apple and where it could be, but it is fascinating to me just looking at the amount of streaming and the amount of sports we are watching only on streaming that finally this crusty old Gen Xer finally cut the cord.
So are we part of the YouTube TV family now, or did you are you doing okay financially? Did you go Sling?
Okay, so let me tell you, because if my wife is listening, she will get a chuckle out of this. I gave this whole list of how we were not going to miss out on anything, and we might actually save some money on cutting the cord. And she said okay, and I go, or we could take the money we were already spending, and we can get Sunday ticket, and she. And she just laughed. And she's like, "You've already ordered it, haven't you?" And I go, "Maybe." So yeah, so now I'm YouTube TV, and I take the savings and I just applied the Sunday ticket. My wife calls it Justin math.
Wait, Justin, are you familiar with the story of Icarus?
I may have been flying too close to the sun. Is what you're saying?
Yeah. It's sunshine and rainbows now, but. You get into like a November where, you guys should be going to like a winery or something. Mm-hmm. And it's like, nah, babe, the games, plural, are on. So
we've invested in this Sunday ticket. We got to watch it. Yeah, of course.
We can pick up a bottle at home. It's no big deal. It's the same thing.
It's the same, and we can have we control the TV. I've tried to pull that one off. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor. You can follow him on Twitter or X at Tyson Alger. You need to be subscribed also to the I-5 corridor. What do we got? What do we got coming down the corridor?
I got something good this week. I've been working on a little Tosh Lupoi deeper dive. So we're gonna go deep into the mind of someone who I think a lot of people think is a meathead, but he's a little more nuanced than that. So
I'm very much looking forward to that. So Tyson Alger, I-5 corridor, Tosh Lupoi profile coming, and of course, like I mentioned, you can follow him on X or Twitter. Hey Tyson, have a great rest of your week, bud, and we'll talk to you. Hey, we got a game week next week. We get to break down the Idaho Vandals. Are you pumped?
Dude, I've just finished doing my film review of all 12 of their games from last year. I'll be ready.
Have a good one, man. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, later.
There we go, Tyson Alger, boys and girls. Before we get to the break, I do want to let you know about us here at Rip City Radio because we want to take you up to the ball game. That's right. Head over to the contest page at ripcityradio.com for your chance to score a pair of tickets to each game of the weekend homestand when the Seattle Mariners take on the Texas Rangers. That's September 13th through the 15th at T-Mobile Park. Plus, 2 nights at Hotel 5. It's a Stay Pineapple Hotel with out-of-the-ordinary hotels in extraordinary locations. Enter today at ripcityradio.com. And remember, it is not too late to plan a trip to Seattle for a Mariner game this season at T-Mobile Park. Tickets, schedule, and information all at mariners.com. Do we maybe have a treat for the RCM mailbag coming up? We'll tease that on the other side next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, so a bit behind the scenes. I don't know if people realize this. When we come in here in the morning, there's like 5 people in this office, and it's just Brenden and I for the most part. But we got a treat today. Joining us for the final segment here on the Rip City Mornings for the RCM mailbag from the Rip City Drive. Fresh off of a trip down to Corvallis yesterday, Chad Doing is in the building. Good morning.
What's up, buddy? Good to see you.
Surprised you're not squeezing out, a couple more rounds of golf. What are you up to? 114 rounds this summer?
I am over 70 now on the season, and what's frustrating is that I am literally, no joke, playing the best golf of my life over the last 2.5 to 3 weeks. But Wednesday's a workout day, and
there we go.
Phil Steele, the author of the College Football Bible, he gave us one option because of his schedule that we could record this morning at 8 a.m. That means I have to leave Vancouver at like 6:45 to make sure I get here on time, and it was a close call. He is one of the few guests that is worth a trip across town in the morning during rush hour traffic to be able to talk with because he is so good at what he does. It just left me in this no man's land where I've got some downtime before my workout. So I'm like, what do? I'll hang out and harass Justin a little bit.
There we go. I love it. So a little tease for, is it going to be later this afternoon? Got Phil Steele? Or we
may save him until Friday.
Okay.
Little Friday treat going into the weekend.
Sometime this week, Phil Steele is definitely going to be on the Rip City Drive. Right now, though, we need to get to the RCM mailbag. Let's fire it up.
All right, we are going to start some sports today because I found this particularly interesting, Justin, as we've been mentioning the Seattle Mariners with the promotion we're giving away. What the heck happened to the Mariners? I haven't looked at the standings in like 2 weeks, and they're probably not going to make the playoffs. Like, what the heck happened?
Yeah, they are plummeting. I believe they are hitting 214 as a team.
Oh, my God.
So apparently...
are you kidding me?
Apparently, if you don't... put the ball in play, Chad, it's tough to score runs.
That's nuts.
If you don't score runs, it's a little tough to win ball games. They got a bump like in June where they got into first place. And
that's when I went and saw them.
And we're kind of riding the thing.
Rolling.
And then all of a sudden, I think everybody figured out, oh, yeah, these guys can't hit.
One of my favorite things to do now after a Mariners game is go to Dave Mahler, Softies.
He's losing it.
Timeline on X just to see what he has to say after the game. From last night, Service just said Munoz hasn't pitched at all on the trip. He pitched twice in Detroit. Don't know what that was all about, but assume he just misspoke. And then he just continues to unload tweet after tweet after tweet on the Mariners, who are a total disaster. They have a losing record in the second half. They can't score. They have a great pitching staff. And they're 5 games back in the division after having a 10-game lead like 6 weeks ago. That's embarrassing.
Well, and also...
It's bad. It's really bad.
Here's the other thing, though, that... And Mariner fans are going to get mad at me for bringing this up, but, like, you've had one playoff appearance in, like, 22 years.
Yeah.
You've been to the playoffs once in 22 years. Like, just because you made one wild card, all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're the Yankees now? It's like the expectations went just completely skyrocket. And now, and maybe it's also because X just throws negativity my way. It's just nothing but, hey, you want to feel bad for an hour? Here, look at this. But it's interesting that, like, there's been an organization that has had a lot of missteps over the last 20-some years. They've made one playoff, and now is the time that there's but I guess you could understand because they got a good pitching staff. They just can't hit.
Yeah, it's a pitching staff that could take a team to a World Series without question. It's one thing to lose games, and it's frustrating as a fan when you watch them bottom out like this. But they can't score, which means they're unwatchable. So not only do they suck right now, they're unwatchable because they don't put runs up on the board. It's terrible. Horrible.
Yeah, I was genuinely curious because I'm like, oh, I haven't seen where the Mariners have been because, Justin, we've been dialed into college football here. And, I was just curious why they started falling like a bad anchor. But
yeah, they can't hit.
Nevertheless, we're going to loop Chad into a fun question that I teased for you yesterday, Justin. Give me one name of a quarterback that signed with Oregon that you thought was going to be a star and ended up being nothing. And Chad, you can throw in Oklahoma too or anywhere, but just someone who you're coming out of high school, you're like, that 4-star, he's going to be, and you're like, oh yeah, he's gone.
What was his? There was a quarterback. It's from Kansas. He ended up going back to Kansas State. Chris Humphreys, I think, was there. Anyways, there was he was the guy that I was like, oh, can't miss. They're gonna run. They're running the spread. He got in. I think a game in like 2008. Couldn't throw. Like literally, could not throw.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
That one was a bad one. I was. This wasn't a recruit. I was a Dakota Prue Cup believer.
That's the guy I was.
I was a Dakota Prue Cup believer. I was like, this is a great move. They got Royce Freeman. They got Darren Carrington. Like they got all the weapons, and this guy's a winner. It wasn't it. Didn't hit, man.
I really thought he was going to hit, and then next thing you know, Justin Herbert's kicking off his Oregon career. That was a bad experiment.
Yes, it was. Cost Mark Helfrich's job, most likely too.
Yeah, that's a big what if. I've always thought about that.
Huge.
What if Helfrich, because he had to have known. I remember hearing from people down in Eugene in August of 2016, like, hey, Herbert's that kid from Sheldon, he's the best guy we got. Like he's crushing Prukop. And you always wonder, like, boy, what if Helfrich would have started him week 1? He'd have been a true freshman.
Big what if.
At a 3-star, but boy, what if he'd have started him week 1?
Even the way Herbert handled himself in that Washington game where they got pounded, you could tell early on, okay, this guy's got something to work with.
Yeah. But I was I bought the Brew Cop hype. I really did.
We've all been there.
I'm trying to think if there's
another one from Oklahoma, Rhett Bomar.
I remember that name.
I thought he was going to be the stud. I was like, all right, they're going to get another national championship. And before you know it, he's in some type of situation where he's getting money from a dealership, but he's not really working. And then I didn't hear about him ever again.
I believe the dealership. This is how crazy my brain is because you mentioned Rhett Bomar, and I instantly go back to the 2005 Holiday Bowl that I attended while Rhett Bomar was
Brady Leaf.
Brady Leaf and Dennis Dixon. It was a bowl game, and Belotti's still playing 2 quarterbacks, and there's this freshman Rhett Bomar with just all of the moxie and trash talk. It's like, yeah, you also got Adrian Peterson, dude.
Yeah.
Is who you're in. But then that year, I believe it was Big Red Sports and Imports was the dealership.
That's the one.
Where Rhett Bomar had a fake job.
They love Oklahoma.
A fake job.
Yeah. When you name your dealership Big Red, how many things in and around Norman are named Big Red or Boomer or...
It's true, right?
Almost everything. It's like going to Israel. Everything's got David mixed into the name. Same thing in Oklahoma. It's about Boomer, Big Red, you name it. It's all Oklahoma and nothing else.
But yeah, Red Boomer, he was supposed to...
I thought he was going to be
what a
great.
name, too.
He sucked.
Wasn't he on wasn't he also... he got in a little bit of trouble because he was sitting courtside at an Oklahoma City Thunder game, drinking a beer. And it's like, dude, you're courtside drinking a beer and you're 20.
Yeah.
We all know how old you are.
Yeah. If you were good at your job, you could get away with anything, but you're not, and you're on national TV. Nice work.
All right, guys, but 1 minute left. Kind of a fun question here. If you could remove one genre of music, what would it be? Just
rap,
erase it.
Hip hop. Take your pick.
It's all gone.
You get it out of here.
It's angry metal. I don't like
death metal.
Death metal.
Horrible.
Just get it like the Cookie Monster, like the Cookie. It's like, yeah, we got to get rid of that.
It does suck.
Because every once in a while, I'll wrap this up in 30 seconds.
I love how people listen to it like it's soothing too.
I go to the gym and they
I
put
don't
it
know how
on,
it
Chad,
could
and
be
I'm like,
soothing,
this is
Chad.
making
No
me
idea.
angry, and this workout is now ruined and it's terrible.
Yeah,
but,
give me DeBarge.
DeBarge and El DeBarge. All right, Chad Dewing is going to be on Rip City Drive as he is each and every afternoon, 3 to 6 with the Godfather, Dwight James. We are going to be back tomorrow morning, bright and early. Thanks to Tyson Alger. Thanks to super producer Brenden. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on 620 Rip City Radio.